I'm Tony Ruiz, contributing editor at Gold Derby, here with Stephen Root, who has just wrapped 4 amazing seasons as Monroe Fuchs on HBO's Barry. And Stephen, so we're recording this, a couple of days after the finale has aired. And
Right.
I actually want to start at the very end because, the last thing we see of Fuchs is him kind of walking off into the dark. And
Right.
I'm curious if you thought, like, if you had an idea in your head what his journey would be after that.
My what I thought about after seeing, I've seen a rough of the episode. I haven't seen the completed episode yet, but I've seen that, and what I think he would immediately go get another berry, immediately go get another berry, and do the same thing he's been doing, but with a renewed confidence that he never had before. Because he gained all this respect in the joint, and I think he would do the same thing, but he would actually might be better at it. I think.
What's funny to me is the minute I saw Fuchs look at Barry's son, I thought this could go one of so many different ways, but I don't think I was prepared for uh Fuchs just delivering him to his dad. Did that catch
Yeah.
you off guard, or did that kind of track for you?
No. Well, I'll tell you what. What the foreshadowing of that literally is in the phone call um, to Hank when I'm in the tub saying, give me the kid, give me the thing, give me everything, and he says, well, I have Barry's son, and that is the first time that he knew Barry had a son, and just we tried that a few different ways, and the way we did it was to foreshadow that this really meant the world to Fuchs. That he probably hasn't made the decision in his head yet that he's going to give him back, but it affected him so tremendously because he had a surrogate kid in Barry himself, and he's thinking of that. But I think not. He hasn't made a decision about it, but I think in the back of his head, without knowing it, he has that he's gonna forgive Barry.
Which I find so. I mean, this finale episode. One of the things that just struck me, I think it's just such a dynamite performance by both you and Anthony Carrigan in those tight close-ups during the face-off. But your character gets to really say what I think is one of the themes of the series about people pretending to be somebody else. But what I find so funny was the line where Fuchs says, I'm the man without a heart. And yet he's not a man without a heart.
Yeah, I think you're right. He is a man with a heart. I think he's just as screwed up mentally as Barry is. Um, but what you're saying is exactly right. Everybody in the second half of season 4 has turned into someone else, and as Bill said when we finished shooting that very tight close-up scene, he said thank you, because that is exactly what's happening in this show is that sentence. Everybody has become someone else, and I don't know. I think he has a heart, I guess, but until he makes that decision to give the son back, then he hasn't. I don't think he makes the decision on the spur of the moment, because he's trying throughout that whole conversation to still manipulate Hank. Well, I'll do this. We'll do this, and I'll do this. Will you do this, and I'll do that? Because that's what he does. He's a master manipulator. But I don't think he makes up his mind until he makes up his mind.
Yeah, it's funny, that whole idea of him still being a manipulator. What I found so interesting is that he's also right, particularly in what he says to Hank. the spur of the moment, just like, okay, change of plans.
Mhm.
You admit you killed
Absolutely.
Cristobal. Why does he want him to admit that so badly?
Oh, um, well, it's something he said even earlier than a little earlier in that speech. He says, "Look, I got out of prison and I found myself. I just dropped the bullshit." And and that's and I think that's just okay. I dropped it. You got to drop it too. We've known each other for a long time. You've got to drop the bullshit, and he won't do it. So that's the consequences of what happened.
Did it surprise you that Fuchs would be the one to take out Hank?
Yes, yeah. I mean, they've had such a wonderful relationship from the very start. It not wonderful, but a shared love for Barry from the very first season of the show. When we thought Barry was dead, we had a phone call. I think, and I was in a hotel room. He was in a car and saying, "Oh, I miss Barry." I'm saying, "Oh, I miss Barry." And Barry, of course, comes back into the room and then punches me in the face. But that's happened all 4 seasons.
Well, and you also get that gun that you were holding.
Isn't that the greatest gun you ever saw?
I was
That
like,
is one of the biggest weapons I have for a hand pistol. That's easily the biggest one I've ever had to handle. It was very fun.
it's also, I think that whole scene is a hallmark of Bill Hader as a director.
Yep.
This fantastic stunt sequence carried out seemingly in one take, long shot. That I mean, can you walk us through that? I mean, that just seemed so. It was so perfectly executed.
It was. What was I think amazing about it is Wade Allen's stunt group doing that thing. I mean, you saw the grenade. After all the shooting happened, you saw the grenade being thrown. You saw those 3 guys. I mean, that looked like a grenade blowing 3 guys up, but it was 4 other guys pulling them with ropes to make that effect, and it was so beautiful. So I got to give him Wade a lot of credit for that shot. And then Bill set up this beautiful line. He didn't want everybody to be dead. I mean, some of them were going to be maimed, and it allows again the darkest humor to come in for Fuchs. Is like, no, don't look at that, don't look at that, that's they're fine. And
I
it's
was
the dark
laughing the whole
humor.
time. He's like, "Oh,
I,
don't look
I
at that! Don't look at that!"
no, don't do that, that's okay, just yeah, that's good. And that's the tightrope that we walked throughout the entire series, is those dark moments coming in between real violence.
And I don't think we can talk about dark moments juxtaposed with violence and extraordinary humor than the Fast and the Furious scene, which is, I don't think I've ever laughed that unexpectedly hard after a decapitation scene.
uh
Um,
yeah
how
um
how was that all put together? I mean, I assume that there was certainly a certain amount of improv in that.
there's a lot of improv in that, and that had to do with a little with me, but a lot more with the guy, my crew behind me. They did a spectacular job in just taking one little bit of information. Okay, let's take the Furious Five, and then let's circle around and do all that stuff with it. But what I thought was amazing about it too was the way Bill set it up. He said, I want you over here as Fuchs in just in the center of this couch, because you're going to be looking at your wife and your daughter." And then he populated it with this beautiful gang, and then never left that wide. It was always a wide shot. So you got a comedic shot as well as the beautiful comedic improv of the actor.
And your face never breaks once. I mean, it's like you're actually taking all of this in.
Yeah, I had to play it as if it was completely straight. Yeah, I see what you're saying about that information, because it doesn't work unless you're completely invested in the truth. And he's just, okay, that's true. It's okay, and I want to know this about that. and that's the beauty of being able to play this character and the beauty of the writing in this script and throughout the whole series. It's a magic show, and it's a magic show because of the group effort to go for the good of the show instead of the good of your own individual character.
It's almost like a perfect ensemble, it seems.
I think so. I think so. It's certainly I can name a couple of others that I think are amazing ensembles, but I think this is the most perfect one that I've been lucky enough to work on for sure.
The Raven, the emergence of the Raven, which I don't know if
joke, which started out as a joke.
Which started as see, that's what I was going to say.
Exactly.
Is that
yeah.
It was a throwaway thing at the end of season 3, and then you emerge as this character. Tell me about the look. How much of that was Bill? How much of that was you? How much of that was
all of us together? All of us together. I mean, Corey created these beautiful tattoos, but we didn't know how many we were going to use. Obviously we were going to use the Raven, but different aspects of the tattoos were Corey's ideas and mine. We used some very tiny ones that you can't really see. There's a couple of skulls right below the Raven, but Corey didn't. He just wanted you to see the tops of the skulls, which I thought was scarier than seeing the whole skull. He produced one that he said, "Oh, we can't use this. Just a little bullseye." I said, "No, that goes right there because that's a crux of my character. Is I've got a bullseye in the back of my head my whole freaking life." So it was a collaboration, and then of course Bill goes, "Yes, maybe, but we need something with a little color here." Corey says they wouldn't have color in prison. They have black and white. They don't have colored ink. But he said, "I agree with you. There has to be one red splotch of color in all these tattoos." So it was very much a collaboration to have all those tattoos.
Did that change? I mean, because Fuchs holds himself completely different after that. He's not this kind of quote unquote schlub that we've seen.
Right.
He's the man now.
Yeah, he's had many years after getting that initial respect of having been beaten up, and then he got the respect from everyone else, and he grew into the respect, as he said himself. So I found myself. He said he also said that he enjoyed getting painful beatings, which is I don't know about that. But
you didn't sound like you were enjoying it at the time.
Yeah, but no, you have to play that character as someone who's been working out for 6 years and someone who has, the posture of a leader, because Fuchs is now a leader instead of a follower, and that's how we played it.
So, I mean, looking back on this series, because I think this is a series that has made such a unique mark in being a different type of quote unquote comedy, and those are debates for other people. But what I find so fascinating is this is a show that never changed to it what it was to please a particular group. It was purely and so I'm just curious, as you look back on it, what do you think the legacy of this show is?
I think it's something that shouldn't be, you shouldn't touch it. It's like having when I did Office Space, this little tiny film, 800 people wanted Mike Judge to make Office Space 2, and Mike said no. It's a little capsule. It's a beautiful it's a thing, and I feel the same way about this show. I don't. There shouldn't be spin-offs of it. There shouldn't be. It's just a perfect encapsulated vision, especially of Bill's in this last season. And it's a piece of art. I don't think you should do anything with
it. Did that with that kind of finality? Do you find yourself, even a little bit after the fact, do you find yourself missing Fuchs at all? Or do you
I
get or do you get nostalgic about characters that way?
No, what was good was it was, when Bill told me where we were going at the end of this season, and I told him I wouldn't get cast as that. I would never go up for that guy. And you're gonna make me go there. You get, yeah, yeah. And I want you to be sexy as well. I said, okay, fine. All right, good. And that's a challenge. That's the greatest challenge you can get as a character actor. It's like, go do something that's really, hard to imagine yourself doing. So that was just a great gift of that. Just a great gift from Bill and the writers. But as I said, this is a miracle show. The writing, the casting, the acting, the set design, everything from catering on up. It's a magic show.
It is, and magic show, magic character. Stephen, thank you so much. It's always so great to talk to you. Everybody go to goldderby.com, make your predictions for the Emmys, and stay tuned for interviews with more contenders. Stephen Root, always great to talk to you. Thank you.
Oh, it's so great. Thanks so much. I always enjoy it. We'll see you again soon.